As usual, we're going to start with the loser on the day first, Derm. As per my watch list, I said I want to see it fail. I want to see fail follow through in the coming week, which is today. See that was opening week pre-market. Actually, DAS is having some trouble. So this is what a chart looks like. So on pre-market, I saw it was gapping down. It was really weak. And that's where I started shorting with very small size, testing size, right? Because a lot of times with these kind of stocks, it just kind of tanks right at the open and doesn't give you an entry. So I want to give myself room to add because I understand that a lot of times my first few entries are usually early, as you can see right here. So I added in short very small. So I have a very small short starter on, and when you have such a small size, you can afford to kind of let it ride and see what it wants to do. So I can see that it failed here. So I can see it popped early on in the morning and then kind of just slammed down, and that's a good sign. But I was waiting here before this cover. I was waiting to see if this slams down. The washout is what I'm looking for, right? That's my confirmation. But no, I started seeing bids stacking in and cover some, just half of the starter size, just in case, and I want to see what happens. And then just kind of it just kind of took off from here. So that was a higher low. So I just covered everything for a loss, and I can't scroll over there with DAS right now, but this is how I covered my starter, and it ended up kind of just grinding and unwinding at the end. So I'll still be watching it for the rest of this week, but small loss on Derm. Next one, this one it was a win, but it wasn't worth it because I was fighting this too hard. Yeah, so the next one is INTC. It gapped up overnight because it's a Russian company, and Russia softened a draft law that limits foreign ownership in big IT tech companies. So INTC is one of those as well. It's like the Google of Russia or something. It's a search engine. So I kind of looked into this, and then I was like, oh no, like this kind of gap. I'm playing the technical side of it, right? Like it's a downtrending stock, and when it gaps up, I'm expecting the gap to sell off. And of course, I had to fight it really hard, as you can see here. I started shorting because I was thinking that this gap is gonna fail. I started shorting at the open, added here, and when it proved to be very strong, I just covered everything here. And thank God this was only half the size. Now, after I cover, of course, that was a loss, but that's where I started watching to see if it actually truly breaks out above the pre-market highs. And it was just acting really weak and couldn't even pop towards 33. It was really weak around this area, especially that's where I was watching. I was watching for weakness for a second entry to go short. So shorted here, and then when it confirms, when this slams down, that shows that there's definitely weakness added into a bigger size, and when it slams down beneath VWAP, that's where I added to full size. And at the same time, I also want to cover and pay myself just a little bit in case this does this kind of thing, right? A lot of times when these large cap companies slam down VWAP, it usually pop above it and kind of like retest VWAP for a little bit before the fade, right? We saw something similar on Netflix when I was trading this last Friday on the day, BIMI. So I love these kind of low float stocks. So BIMI, this stock gapped up. They released some pump PR news about some potential acquisition deal with another company in China. You'll find out a lot of times these penny stock companies conveniently release PR, some pump PR, when the stock on the daily looks like it's setting up for a rebound, right? You'll see a lot of these coincidences in a small cap land. And it's never a coincidence, okay? It's never a true coincidence. They want to pump it up for a reason. So that's why, I am perfectly fine loaning these scalp bounces, as you can remember from my SES trade on Friday. But I'm always very nimble with my price targets. I never want to hold for it to test potentially $10 again. Because a lot of times they release the PR to prop it up again for them to do an offering, right? Because they didn't do one here, they didn't do one here. And it's a small cap company with 20 million market cap. They need cash, And a lot of times they're like, okay, we have a lot of interest in our stock. Now, what can we do to pump it up again? And, for us to do some ATM and to take some more cash out of the stock. So that's what I have in mind as I'm trading this. So it's a low float. Pre-market, it was relatively easy to borrow. The shares were not too expensive. So a lot of times, easy to borrow stocks, especially with these kind of low float, it's going to squeeze. So that's where I'm watching for a potential long entry. A lot of times on these rebound plays, I expect the gap up to just kind of dump, right? So if I'm a long trader, I want to wait to see that it can actually hold a bottom and to see volume start to come in. All the opening this mess, I am not involved. I don't like any of these because they don't have substantial volume. This is where it gets interesting. When we get 200,000 shares of buying and it's still slammed down. So at this point, I wasn't that confident there was a trade in this for me. It's this reclaim later that started to get me interested in it long, right? Because if it can reclaim a slam like this, that means there's real buyer coming in. And I want to be buying along the real buyers. But again, when I'm loaning these kind of bounces, it's always scalps. You can see I scalped this for 40 cents. And then I cut my losses here just to make sure I'm still green on the trade. I scalped a little bit up here and sold my remaining shares up there, and the rest got stopped out. So nice few scalps, just taking advantage of the momentum and the shorts getting squeezed. Because I know there's still a lot of people shorting these, right? So when there's good news and when there's volume coming in, I think it's gonna pop. And look at this buying volume. It's significantly more than the selling volume on this day. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out the next few days. Gonna do a recap for Tuesday. Lots of really good follow through today. Traded 2 tickers and 2 wins today. And let's talk about it. So the first one is Snapchat. Right, per my watch list, it ran on Monday on guidance upgrade. It's kind of hard to see on this chart, but this day, yesterday was Monday, it ran, right? Such a strong, bullish candle on the daily chart. It ran ahead of earnings because earnings is actually today after hours, as you can see here. It tanked and kind of chopped around. But this morning, I was trying to play, the idea was that Snapchat is one of those stocks that sell off the gap. And also, people don't like holding into earnings, right? When it had such a huge run the day before, I imagine people want to take profit. So that's kind of like the fundamental catalyst for me to leaning in short on Snapchat. Gapping up to $15 from the upgrade, I'm thinking that it's going to sell off to $14.50s and possibly down towards $14. And of course, it gave us much more than 14, and I only caught a little piece of it. The chart is kind of messed up now, but this is pre-market. I started shorting around this $15 area. And why 15? Because $15, there's a lot of resistance here, right? There's support up here. Previous support becomes resistance, right? It's not like a magical number here. So I started in short. I was thinking it could potentially pop towards 15.12s. Why 15.12s? Again, drawn from the daily chart. 15.17, 15.20. I was looking to add on the pop. But when it starts dumping immediately at the open, of course I want to pay myself, right? I was thinking with such a huge sell-off, a lot of times stocks like these, they sell off, but they start basing and then bounce right back. So I need to lock some in. And if it pops again towards 15, I can add again. And of course, just kind of dumped for 10 minutes straight down to 14.30s. Did I catch the bottom? No, I did not. As you can see, I caught some here, 14.80s, 14.70s, and then at the previous day close, which is 14.60s, and some more here. In hindsight, of course, I wish I scaled back in and, started shorting again. But, when I made money on the ticker, I don't want to go back again because a lot of times when I go back, I become too biased and I become a little bit too overly confident and I make mistakes. But of course, you can see there's a double top here around the previous day close area. That would have been an ideal re-short entry down to 14, and a trade is a trade. So that's one. The other one is ETON. ETON, it was gapping up FDA approval news for one of their drugs. Now, FDA approval usually sell off. Why? Because because it's like one of those seldom news events, right? We've seen this time and again with both mid caps and large caps. FDA approvals, a lot of times they pop and then they just sell off. Because, there are people who buy into FDA approvals on these stocks. So when the news is released, they got what they wanted, they got what they came here for in the stock, and they just sell off. I'm saying usually, right? Because it's not like 100% guaranteed. But it gapped up from previous day close, which is 580s, gapped up to $7. I started in short here because I was thinking that it could pop to 770s or $8, but I can see it started selling off pre-market already. And when that happens, I'm saying, okay, then that kind of confirms my thesis. Then I can start in short here and add. If it pops, towards a 730s pre-market high, but never got there. So it kind of just had a really weak pop and immediately dumped. So that's when I added to my full size. And of course, gotta take a profit. I locked in everything here because I was thinking, okay, this pre-market low area could have been it. This could be the bottom. And of course, just take off some more without me down to 618s. But, still a really good gain on this name. Same thing as Snapchat, right? I didn't catch everything, but I caught a very nice chunk of it. And that's all that matters. You can never catch everything in day trading. Hey guys, gonna do a red day recap today. Overall, a very poor trading discipline day on my part. Loss on all the tickers I traded. Well, okay, 2 out of the 3 tickers I traded today. And let's talk about it because we're gonna talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. So IRBT is the biggest loser on the day. So this one, earnings, loss on earnings, lowered guidance. Now IRBT is one of those stocks that I've traded in the past before. When they miss on earnings, the stock really tanks. Like it'll sell off all day long. Perhaps I'm too biased on that today, and perhaps I think it's just a little bit of everything. I'm too short biased and just didn't respect my plan. Because the plan from pre-market was to short the pops, right? The pops to $48 daily resistance and also $49. But you can see I kind of jumped the gun. I didn't wait. Right, it was only popping to $45 and then $46, and I started shorting big size. The first initial pop was small size, and I covered it here. So that was I guess I paid myself some, and for like 1 point on a small size. But the bigger mistakes were these ads over here. I added here, and I sensed that it was really strong. I covered the shorts here, and I flipped long. But when I'm flipping long, I'm also really cautious because remember, I'm short biased, right? So I'm flipping long. I'm not flipping long the same size. So it's a long here, sold everything here, and I was out. And I started shorting here because I see it break beneath VWAP. Now, at this point, I'm fighting this really hard, as you can see. It's not the best executions. I wasn't shorting up around the daily resistance line as per the plan. And I was just fighting this too hard. And you can see what happened. I shorted here, covered some on this whip out, and I chased it here, and I covered again. Like all these ads were small, but paper cuts add up, right? Finally, I cut everything here, and I told myself, okay, I need to take a break, go for lunch, just walk away from this. So it's a pretty sizable loss, I'm not gonna lie. So I'm pretty disappointed at myself for the poor executions. Next one, REZI. This one is also an earnings loser and guided down as well. I must just have my short hat on for the whole day today or something. Like I keep on trying to fight these things and short them. And like it's fine to short these things on the pops, like the pops to 920s here. That was a good ad. But man, like I was just not patient. Like it's really frustrating for me today. I'm just not patient. I don't know why. Like it's one of those days where nothing, I'm not going to say nothing worked. It's because my discipline didn't work. It's what it is, right? You can't say, oh, the stocks didn't work for you. The plays didn't work for you. No, it's my own execution. There's no one else to blame, right? I jumped the gun, covered it here, and I reshorted. I guess that's a good reshort, but I still took like a sizable loss up here, right? As you can see. Added here, thinking it's gonna flush. Didn't flush, covered it all here. And when I see a fail, I chased it again on small size, didn't work, had to cut it off. So another loss. It's not as big as IRBT, but still, like it's still a really frustrating loss on my part. Next one. Oh, I guess this one's finally a win, but it's not. It's a small win, okay? Compared to the two losses, it's a small win. So OBLN, just shorting yesterday, right? They had a big run and then got all the loans bagged on the daily, and they just sold off. As you can see, this rug pull near the end of the day yesterday, which is Tuesday, got caught. I bet it caught a lot of loan traders. So today, the idea was to short any pops, right? Because I'm thinking all the bag holders here, they're gonna to get out on any pop, because again, non-dilution chart, lots of bag holders. So that's why I started shorting. Pre-market, I literally got filled. No joke, I got filled like 70 shares up here. 19 shares the first order, the second order I got like another like 60 shares or something. It's pre-market after all. But luckily at the pop at the open, I got to add to half size and added even more here. Not to full size, but I had a good, decent size with me. But the frustrating thing is I missed the cover on this dump here, and I started seeing that it's reclaiming VWAP. And also remember, I was trading IRBT and REZI at the same time. So I just I cut these winners off too early. Like that's just what it is, right? You can see it fade all the way down to 170s. I had such a nice average around 194. You can notice the difference, right, between today and the trading from Tuesday, which is yesterday. It was just two trades that I planned well in advance. I got a very good entry, and I was able to, let these trades work, and they worked out pretty well, right? You can see the trades that tend to be the best are the ones that you didn't have to fight as hard. And today I really just fought too hard for, IRBT and REZI. And there's no one else to blame but myself, my own discipline, my own patience. So traded two tickers today, Tesla and CETX, according to plan. And it's a nice bounce back from my red day yesterday. And so let's talk about it. So today, I guess after the close yesterday, Tesla has earnings, and they gapped up from a close of 253 to a high of 308 yesterday. So that's a huge gap because they beat huge on earnings. You can see Tesla, big beat on earnings by $2.19, and the stock was also 25% short. And this is the game plan on Tesla, right? Looking for a pop towards 305 to fail, and there's room down to 291. And for me, since I had a red day yesterday, whenever I have that, the next day, I always want to be very, very patient, and I don't trade the first 10 minutes. I let it set up for me first. So Tesla popped it open towards that 305 level, and it failed really quickly. And when I see it fail, this pivot line early on, I know that, hey, this thing can possibly gap down, or gap fill, not gap down, possibly gap fill, because it has such a huge gap on the daily, right? And how I find out about these pivot point, I have to give a shout out to my trading buddy, Elisa. She also has a YouTube channel. You guys should check her out. It's called The Power of Pivots. So what Elisa is really good at, she's a coder. So she codes it's her own proprietary software that gives us these daily pivot lines, and she knows the strengths of all these different pivot lines, and it works especially well in mid caps and large caps. And pivot lines are basically the support and resistance that algos use. So when I see a reject around the 304, 305 pivot line quickly early on, that's when I know that, okay, this thing probably isn't gonna pop higher. And Tesla in the past, they have sold off on earnings before, right? Today they held pretty well, but in the past I've seen it just gap fill all the way down to like 50% retracement or something. But anyways, the plan as from the watch list was to short on the pops and looking for a gap fill down to 291, because there's another pivot line around 291.20 or something. Elisa also told me in the chat room early on today. We plan out these things together every morning pre-market. So looking for a pop to short. So after this stop put in, I know that's where my risk has to be. So whenever I enter on these pops, I size according to my risk, right? I know ultimately this is the place where I have to cut if it reclaims that level really quick. So scalding on all the pops. Really nice add up here, seeing that long wick around the 302 area. I see that long wick, and this is where I start adding in really big. And when I add in big, I wanna cover some just to pay myself on the flushes. So when you can see, like, this is like a 2-point flush. So of course I wanna pay myself some, but I wanna hold a majority for that plan to gap fill down to 291. Pay myself some after it rejects VWAP just in case it reclaims again and chop around like it did later on. Paid myself out and flush even more. I paid myself some more just in case it's a double bottom. And around this area, I was kind of nervous because it looked like it was kind of consolidating around the 294, 295 area, and there's another pivot line there, but it's not as strong as the top and the bottom one here. This is an intraday level pivot. It's not as strong, but it could still double bottom. So I paid myself some more. So from this initial position, I covered everything here because after a red day, I'm not going for home runs. I'm not going for big wins. I'm just looking to trade well, right? So when I see this could be a potential bottom, I covered everything. All the shorts up here, I covered up here. And then I told everyone I was trading with, hey, I covered everything. It's probably going to flush down to 291 now. And literally right after I cover, it starts breaking below the 295 area. So I added a little bit. It's a little chase, I know, but when I'm chasing, I use chase size. I chase and I covered everything here. So it's a nice little like a 2-point scalp over here. But the bigger size was up here where I covered everything here, and a little scalp down here. It did break beneath the 291 and then down to 289, but that reclaimed really quickly, as you can see. And it just starts uptrending and chop around VWAP. But I was all out by that point. So really nice and very clean trade. Definitely good discipline. Traded my plan, and I planned the trade ahead as well. Second trade, CETX. So this one, I didn't get to trade yesterday, but I'm just seeing like how this one bagged so many longs on the yesterday's chart, right? You can see chopped around, squeezed the shorts out, trapped the longs here, and trapped even more longs here, and it just dumped. So today the plan is to short on the pops, right? So shorted around this previous day close area. Didn't get to add to full size because pre-market volume is really thin. I wish I added here, but I was also just watching a couple of other tickers at the same time. I was also watching APOP, but I didn't trade that one. I was just kind of watching the action today. Missed the add here, so really small size. Covered some when it looks like it's starting to base, and covered some on the wash. That's it. Very clean trade. And a nice way to end the day and rebound back from the red day from yesterday. So it's Friday today. To be honest, it really doesn't feel like a Friday because there's so much in play, lots of really active tickers, lots of follow through on the mid caps and large caps. And I traded a total of 7 tickers today. And it's really rare for me to have traded so many even on a regular day, and let alone on a Friday. So let's talk about it. So this is a game plan from pre-market today. INTC, PCG, ACRS, and some other stocks on the side. And as you can see, I was wrong on INTC, right? I thought this was going to sell off like it had done before. But, very different from my IRBT trade from Wednesday where I just fought the trend. But instead, INTC, I shorted 55, and then when I recognized that it's really strong, I covered it here. So this is a loss here. Right? And then I tried really short again. I was thinking this is the top, right? Because in the watch list I said 55, 60s. There's a resistance line there. But I shorted here. I was wrong again. I covered. And when I covered, this is where I flipped long, right? Because I recognized that learned from my mistake from IRBT on Wednesday, that when I'm wrong, I need to cut it. And if there's, potential, then flip long. And that's exactly what I did. Bought, flipped long here, sold some just to recover some of my losses, sold some more because there's resistance around $56, and I sold some more here just in case that is the top, and I cut broke even here down here. So a really nice small red, and then small green. So at the end, I ended up really small green on the day. As you can see, I didn't catch the top. But that's okay. I was fighted this time. So that's what I'm really proud of from this one. Next trade, PCG. Now PCG, I was looking at the 620s level as per the watch list plan. There's a key pivot line there from the daily chart, and when I see it rejected really quickly, kind of similar like how I reacted to the Tesla rejection yesterday at the open, that's when I started leaning short. It rejected really quickly, slammed down VWAP, and I couldn't reclaim it, right? It tried to get on top, get above VWAP again, just wicked and slammed down again. And this is where I started in short. In hindsight, I should have covered into this wash here, and I didn't. But that's okay, I covered it here. And when I covered, I accidentally covered too much, so I got long, right? So when that happens, that's happened before. When that happens, I just have to get out. And I got, so I sold the accidental long shares here, but this is really a cover for this one. So a nice little wing on this one. So Tesla's the next one. This was actually not on my main watch, but it's on my side watch list, as you can remember from earlier when I showed you my watches. It's on the side because I was trying to see, because remember I was short yesterday, right? I was shorting here, covered down here. But I noticed that it got bought up at the end of the day. And the close, like pretty much held the gap, right? It closed near the highs here around $300 and held the gap and recovered from the sell-off. So I was thinking, today it's either gonna reject $300 really fast and sell off again, and down here, down to the previous day low here, and potentially crack on the daily, or it'll reclaim $300 really fast, and then again reclaim the previous day high yesterday at 304, and then potentially run towards, what were the pivots that we drew yesterday? 309 and 314 today. And so when I see that it reclaimed with really good volume early on, that's when I got interested in long. As you can see, the first one, I noticed a lot of times my entry, the first time is never the best. So that's why it's scale size only, right? And when I know I'm chasing here, I need to risk 304, previous day high, 304 area, 304.80. That's my risk. And you size according to your risk. Always size according to your risk, not your reward. So I added here when I see that it's holding the 305 area, added to full size, added some more when I see that the volume is really, really strong and breaking out, and added some more, sold some just to pay myself because, this ad could just be the top, right? So some just to pay myself, but still holding a majority on the way up because I know after it breaks 309 has room to 314 and apparently now 320, right? Of course, I never catch the top. Held a majority here and sold some here into the strength, right? You always want to sell on the way up and you see so much volume coming in. Sell on the way up, and when I see that, oh shoot, this could potentially be the top, I set my break even here and I sold here. And of course, just like INTC, didn't sell at the top. But still a very nice trade on this one. Had 306 average and sold a majority up here at 311. So that's a nice 5-point trade. And I couldn't ask for a better one on a Friday. Next one, Roku. This one was slightly disappointing. A very, very small win. And you can see, again, it's taking off without me. So all these long trades are also basing off on the fact that SPY is ripping today, right? Futures up, futures ripping, and SPY is also breaking out on the daily. So that's why all these things have such amazing follow through. That's why I'm long Roku, Tesla, INTC, and stocks like that. And this one on Roku, I was thinking that, if I'm long here, the risk is really, really minimal, right? The risk is 301, make it 301 $4 mark. You're risking $1 basically. This is a starter size and added full size here. And I was looking for this kind of breakout. And you can see on the daily has room to let's be conservative and say 135, 137, and 139, right? So you're risking $1 to potentially make the 305, not 305. So you're risking $1 to potentially make 135, 136, and potentially 140. So the risk reward is really good, but I just didn't have enough patience to see it through. So it ended up being like a small win, and then of course it's not breaking out without me. So, but still, nice planning on the trade. I just don't like to outstay my welcome. As you can see, I already traded too many tickers today. The other ones, I was short on my Trade Zero account. Don't have it open anymore, so I'll just talk about it. APOP, not the same thing. Like you see it in my past few days. Shorted, previous day close, covered here. And at the end, I actually was break even because I was trying to get out. The liquidity was just so low. So I think I got out break even and lost on the short borrows. I think the borrows, they were not that expensive. They were like 5 cents OP. And then and also similar as RBZ, was short here pre-market. Actually, I got short here. Short here, trying to cover, couldn't cover. And pre-market, and then at the open, I covered at the open. So I only ended up making like a couple of cents. And the borrows on this was really cheap. It was only 2 cents. So again, break even on this one short. And an OPTT, same thing. Shorted on the spike to 180s. Actually got filled at 178 average. Covered some here and covered the majority at the open because I was just playing so many things at the same time. I really couldn't have, kept this on watch. And of course, it faded off without me. So a small win on this one. So traded 7 tickers today. Very nice way to end the week. Lots of follow through, and again, it's Friday, right? I never come into Friday thinking I'll make home runs. On Fridays, I'm really nimble, really careful, really patient, waiting for my entry, or at least I tried. But it ended up really nice. Like when you are just trading your plan and sizing it accordingly to your comfort size, you'll be very surprised with how much small wins add up, even on a day like Friday. So nice way to end the week. Thank you guys for watching again, and have a good weekend.